Okay, we are live. This is episode 3 of the Supplement Snoop podcast. And this week, I'm super excited to welcome KJ from V1 Nutra. You've probably seen him if you have the internet, if you have social media. I'm sure you've seen KJ across your feed lately. V1 Nutra is blowing up. So I'm glad you had some time in your crazy schedule to hang out tonight, my man.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I'm looking forward to this. Since you asked me, I've been looking forward to it. I don't do that many podcasts, but I always enjoy them. They're fun.
Yeah, I think it's been kind of interesting because the first few people that I thought of, I didn't really realize this, but the first couple people that I wanted to have on right away, you and Jacob and Jess. I don't know how well you know Jess. But I realized like you guys are all about like the same age and the same. And I've kind of realized that what always fascinates me is like, where do you, like, being that young, get the audacity to like just go for it, like the way you guys have been doing it? It's just for me, man, because I didn't have that, until I got a little bit older and kind of thought about some things. So it's just so cool for me to watch people like you just fucking kill it.
No, I appreciate it. It is kind of weird because you do think about it. I had a shift of mindset like a couple different times. Like once in the very like freshman year of college, I did the whole like welcome week and really got the college, I don't know, I guess like atmosphere and experience. And then some reason I just like flipped a switch and then just went immediately into just like self-help, like freaking Tony Robbins, like all these guys to just like, what could I do to better my life? And then it kind of just trickled down into the supplement industry when I got into, like, of course, everybody's story is they started creating their own pre-workout from stuff on Amazon and bulk supplements, creating their own stuff. Honestly, it was literally just pushing myself. I don't know. I have this crippling thing of like never thinking I'm good enough to where it's like it pushes me to always want to do better and get more. So,
yeah, that's funny. Interesting that you say that because that was part of what I had written about in that book that I just kind of dropped was how you have this voice sort of inside of you that's always kind of telling you that, what you're doing is not enough and, you can't do it kind of thing. So, if you can use that sort of as fuel rather than, we all deal with the same thing, but what we do with it is ultimately, tells the tale of how you're going to kind of play out.
Exactly. Yeah. You see it play out exactly like you're saying in different ways where it's some people take that and they take it as a woe is me. This sucks. Nobody else is going through what I'm going through. I'm just going to get depressed and everything, to where other people just take it and like, okay, this now is my motivation I need to better myself and kind of get out of this kind of mindset and pushes them. But
yeah, well, so the crazy thing was, I think it was maybe like a year ago or something like that when I think it was Sean over at NutraFit. He asked me, he goes, hey, have you seen this company, this pre-workout and this and that? And he showed me V1 and I said, no, because I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok. It's a little rough for me to be on TikTok because that whole like quick, that's just not, my style. He was showing me your stuff. And like I said, maybe it was more than a year ago at this point. But, you and I have gotten to know each other, over the time. And I kind of realized, like, as I was following some of your content, I don't know. I was like some things that would pop up where you would talk about your story in the past. I was like, holy shit, there is a lot going on here that I was looking forward that I just didn't know, that I was looking forward to hearing about.
Yeah, no, it's kind of an interesting story about how I kind of jump from place to place. But I mean, I guess like I said before, it started with me having just the fascination of like my first ever pre-workout, I think was 2014, was Dino by RSP. I don't know if it's still anymore.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was a decently heavy hitter for like my first workout. But then it just kind of spiraled from there. I got into everything. And then I got into like all the anabolics and pro hormones when SARMs were huge. I just experimented on myself because that was the fun thing to do at the time. But then I was like in college and I worked at the vitamin shop part-time for about 3 years and like really just dove into kind of the whole business behind not only what's a good formulation, but like how are these brands like doing so well when the formulas aren't good. And I just researched everything while I was at the vitamin shop. That was kind of all I did. Not too many people came to the store that I was at.
Paid internship kind of.
basically, and they have, I don't know if you know this about Vitamin Shop, but they have like a whole like schooling you have to go through like when you start the job, which I thought was cool. Like I enjoyed doing that because it basically gave you all the tools and like schooled you on all these, basically the Vitamin Shop stuff, but it was still kind of fun to do. But then my very last semester of college was when Corona hit and we were all sent home. So that was kind of the turning point where like I didn't know what to do. I wanted to get in this industry somehow, whether it was working with a manufacturer. I wanted to work with a brand. So I kind of spam emailed, spam DM'd, cold called it, everything I possibly could. Probably sent at least 150 brands or manufacturers messages. So, yo, is there any opening? Is there anything I can possibly do? Like blah, blah. I think like three people reached back out. One was Dom from Revive and C-Bum. Which was funny because they were like nobody knew who they were at the time. Yeah. And then one of them was NutriCap. So, and then it was, and that email basically was saying, yo, we would love to have you we would love to have you for an internship, blah, blah, blah. But Corona just hit. So give us 5 months. We'll hit us back in 5 months. We'll see if we sell the opening. So I then made some weird trades with Tesla, got about $8,000 from that, sold my truck, and downgraded, got about $10,000 from that. So I had a little bit of a chunk to like do something with because I couldn't get any opportunity, I guess, in the world at that time. So then I just did 150 units of pre-workout, 150 units of protein powder, started TikTok, kind of told the story, and weirdly some of the stuff blew up. And I just kind of just spiraled with that. I had nothing else to do except for just dive in and do as much as I possibly could, learn, research. And my first pre-workout wasn't the best pre-workout, but it tasted really good. I'll say that.
Well, like one of the things that, because there's so many things I want to talk to you about what you just said. One of the things that I heard you say, or that I saw on one of your sort of behind the scenes, kind of videos that was really cool was, you're what, 25 now? Right?
Yeah, just turned 25. Yep.
Just turned 25, but you mentioned, I think you were showing when you were on social, you were about 16.
Yeah.
So you've been at it for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Which is so like, I think that's what's always fascinating about these stories. Cause I remember talking to Jess when she said the same thing. Like she goes, yeah, I was messing around one day and I was 16 years old and ended up turning social media into like a 6-figure coaching, position. I was like, if you're 16, I was like, that is not what we were doing like when we were 16. So your people will see you now. And it's like that old cliche, right? Like, wow, KJ just blew up over the last like year or so. But really, we're talking 9-10 years, in the making of information.
Oh yeah. And I mean, like I was doing that. I definitely wasn't even close to as consistent as I was like the 3 years ago when I started to really excel. But yeah, like I was trying to do YouTube back in 2016, filming workout videos, doing everything I possibly could. And it was cool. Like I learned, and I think it's just that curiosity that really just kept me going. It's like, how the hell do these people that are my age know better than me in the position that I want to be in? Like I could easily do that. I just got to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, that's such a cool thing to think about, like at that age, because I tell a similar story. I remember just being, I was working a career full time, had the, doing the typical, 9 to 5, like house, and we're going down the typical path. And I remember being at the one career I was at, and I remember finally like that realization hit me. I was like, I could do this. Like I'm looking around at these people that I was exposed to, but that's what's so cool about like people that embrace social media and things like that at a young age. Now you have access to people that in just a short time ago, I mean, we didn't have that. You sort of had to rely on your family or people around you. So that was kind of one of the things. Was entrepreneurship within the family, or was it kind of people that were inspiring you online, or was it like a combination?
It honestly,
just like you were born psycho.
I don't know, because I don't think I really ever had like the entrepreneurial gene. It was like I said before, I was just curious. The whole reason I started the whole 300 unit run was because I just wanted to learn. Like I just want to learn what goes into making supplements, because I had no clue. All I knew was the finished product, what was a good formula. But like I didn't know you had to blend a certain way. I didn't know everything had to be tested, certain bottles, labels, and everything like that. And then I just think I don't know. I just got addicted to it. But my dad is he's an executive, so he's very business forward, and he's definitely helped me run a lot of the contracts and stuff. So that's definitely fun.
That's helpful.
But no, like I don't know. I think I just caught on to it, and it is addicting trying, or at least seeing a little bit of growth from kind of where you started, or even just getting one sale. Like my first ever drop, I've never had that feeling ever again. Like that first where I sold maybe 70 units in the first hour or something like that. We're like doing way more now, but it's like that little thing was like, oh my God, that feeling was unbelievable.
I know. I see you talk about it every now and then, and it's like you relive it.
Oh, it is
sort of ever watching, which is, but I talk about that all the time. That's so cool that, sometimes when we get into the weeds of what we need to do more and better, and you're always focusing, like sometimes you forget.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the whole point, kind of to begin with. Like one of the things that you said that was very relatable was when I realized I wanted to get into the supplement space, but I didn't know anything about it. So I remember I was like, well, I'll probably have to work for a brand or even like part-time at like a GNC to learn the. Dude, I sent my resume and I spammed everyone, and like literally no one. People are like, "For what we're gonna hire you for? Like you have a career. Like why would we like hire you?" Kind of thing. Like literally, not one person would give me a job. And I thought to myself, I was like, "Well, shit. I guess I have to create my own job."
Yeah.
And then it's funny now where you just you're helping. I don't know the whole situation with you and Inspired or anything, but it's like now that you've built something, any brand, you probably opportunities to work and help other brands is probably like knocking on your door like repeatedly now.
That's kind of it is ridiculous the amount of like just doing your own thing and kind of just carving your own, I guess, craft of doing things. Because I don't know, there isn't really a job title for what you do, or you mean what I do. I guess it's like we can kind of do a lot of different things, especially when it comes to supplement space. But yeah, we just kind of learned on our own. It is now like we have talents and skills that really not many other people have. To where, yeah, exactly like you said, there's a lot of. If I was just done with V1, I could just push it off and be like, hey, do you guys need any help with anything? And probably a bunch of brands would want me. But exactly like what Inspired's doing, they saw my, I guess, a little bit of an asset I could be to them, and yeah, it's definitely been awesome work with them for sure.
So I saw also, and you mentioned earlier that you started to work at NutraCap, and one of the things that that always I think is an eye opener for a lot of brands that sort of I talk to and run into is the manufacturing process itself really kind of wears them down before they ever get launched. Did your experience at NutraCap, like, were you able to see what other brands would kind of go to? Were you able, or did you still kind of have to learn basically the hard way?
So NutraCap, I don't know. NutraCap is kind of notorious for not being the greatest or the quickest manufacturer, especially with my first run. I want to say it was probably like 20 weeks for 300 units, some like ridiculous time. But yeah, so like it was kind of a weird experience at NutraCap. I was there for I think only 4 or 5 months, but for the first 2 weeks, it was technically part of my school internship was why I got the job there. Maybe it was even a week. It was like a week, and then HR like called me to the office. Was like, "We'd like to offer you a full-time position." I was like, "All right." So I got in the sales team because I don't know. I was with those guys all day and kind of chatting, and they were like, "Oh, this dude kind of knows his stuff about formulations, everything. Let's just put him on the team." So I was on the sales team and like help formulate and stuff. But yeah, it is interesting being behind the scenes and seeing like how much goes into it. And yeah, like especially with NutraCap, how their times are lined for so long. Being a salesman, you can't really do anything other than just like, it's coming. I'm checking with the QC team to see if everything's wrapped up and ready to go. So yeah, that was kind of the toughest part, was not being kind of the control of the people, I guess my people that I've worked with supplements,
Yeah, because it's what I keep talking about. This whole process, like this time frame when you say I want to make this pre-workout, and then you realize you have to do, the labels have to be done in a certain time, and then there's always mistakes with the labels, and then it has to line up with the manufacturing, and then next thing you know, you're especially, and you launched basically during COVID, right? Like,
Yeah.
You could not have picked the worst time to try to launch a company than you did.
It was interesting, and like you're saying, like I don't know if this is just me or every single supplement brand, but there's always something that goes wrong. Like you're saying, labels, like bottle sizes they don't have, and there's literally always something. Like even when I was working at NutriCap, I think I did 2 runs while I was there, so I was very hands-on with it. Like I would walk down to the graphic designers and like do the label with them. The label guys are literally across the street. I'd go down to them, make sure like everything was plated the correct way, and go to the sample lab, literally do the samples myself, which is actually pretty cool. And we still like ran into errors, and like, one of the times they literally filled. Well, I guess I probably shouldn't say the name of this. I think there's a brand that blocked me, and I have no clue why they blocked me. And it's kind of a well-known brand, but they somehow put that brand's bottle in their label, and they put my powdered product into that bottle.
Oh,
and so like their whole run was done.
There's a private chat function on here if you want to let me know or text me. So they put your product in someone else's tub.
Yeah. So it's back when it's back when they were like very beginning. So like it was, and that was like when I was on the rise, and like that was my biggest ever, like that actual run. I think it was either that one or the next one. Like I sold, I think 1,500 units in like 30 minutes. That was like the biggest viral I've ever been. But yeah, it's funny that they blocked me, and I have no clue why. But
I could probably take a few guesses. There would be something petty. So did you, when you decided to drop, first of all, you decided to drop a protein immediately, which is, like, that's crazy. That is really like, you're really like a glutton for punishment if you want to drop a protein right away.
Like I said, like I didn't know how any stuff worked. I was just diving in, and like I was like, I love protein, and protein. I don't know if you're watching my day of eating. I have too much protein. Like I ate it way too much, partly I guess because I have so much protein. As far as like my shelves are so full of other brands' proteins, but I don't know. I just love protein. I mean, I like pre-workout too, but I don't know. I thought it was cool. I always wanted to have my own unique flavor, and I think the first flavor was caramel glazed donut. Was the first flavor I came out with.
Okay, and that was run through NutriCap.
Yeah,
because they're one of the. I think that's like one thing that a lot of people don't know is. There's not, well, I don't want to say like not many, but there's different manufacturers. Some of them run proteins and both, and then some, stay away from protein altogether, which, I mean, who doesn't want to release their own protein powder? You just don't realize like what a huge, kind of pain in the ass it is, sort of up front.
It's weird because it's almost come full circle to where like now our protein, like almost, I think if we had it in stock, would almost oversell our pre-workout at this point. Which is weird, but yeah, in the beginning it did, because we sold out of the pre-workout, I think almost immediately in the first 24 hours of the 150 units, and then it took like a whole week for us to sell out of the rest of the 150 units of protein.
So the one thing that you do that I think is it's gutsy, but it's also brilliant at the same time, is you play the you do the limited, I don't want to say like limited run, but you do the scarcity thing where you're like constantly like rotating flavors, because we figured out like these days, everyone's really making good products, well, for the most part. So it's like, kind of, what do you do? And you are like right on the edge of that, where it's like, you're going to go out of stock. So next thing you know, your inventory and numbers get really, really complicated and really quick. But it's such a good idea if you can do it, if you have the foundation in place to make those, new pre-workout flavors, or those the limited type, or the shorter runs kind of thing. So that's like, I don't know, because your first runs, right, you are kind of just probably making whatever you could make. Okay, I got the money, I'm gonna kind of make something this week.
It probably was the first, probably like 20 months. It probably took almost 2 years before we didn't do a drop and then a week later have nothing left in stock. And then wait a whole 8 weeks before we got stuff back in and do the exact same thing. So we did that for, probably at least 16 to 20 months of just selling everything we could in the week span, which I guess was all of our inventory we paid. Then get that money back, place another big order as possible. Then just keep doing that cycle. And I mean, I'm not the best at doing the whole operations of knowing when we're going to be out of stuff. But it's also hard being not fully because we're doing a little bit more consistent sales and stuff, but being a majority of just my social media being the whole sales platform to where like I guess the last one, the ice pop, we ordered a decent amount of units. I thought, okay, this is going to last us at least a decent little bit of the summer because it'll be a limited edition ice pop summer flavor. Apparently my videos did very well the week beforehand that there's no way I could have planned that 8 weeks before to where we sold it out in 3 days. I would have doubled or tripled my order if I knew those videos were going to pop off. So it's a little bit of kind of figuring out that whole algorithm of what flavors do I think are going to do well? Can I do a good video on this 8 weeks in the future? It's a whole balancing act that I haven't quite figured out yet. As you can see, we're sold out of a lot of stuff right now. So
yeah, I don't know that it's kind of crazy. Like just from what I've seen, I don't know that anyone really figures it out, right? Well, one of the toughest things too with supplements is supplements seem, we're all trying to figure out, well, how do you, mitigate the spikes of, we run a sale and then it gets like, crazy and we blow through this inventory. And then, people stop buying supplements for a little bit of time. And then you have like, Black Friday, and then we know that it's going to slow down for a little while. But it's like that roller coaster where you're trying to ride it and then also hit it sort of at the right time. But it's like, at some point you just kind of have to just stick to what you're doing because it's obviously, it's kind of working. So you just kind of get up and hope everything sort of works itself out.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think my goal this year was to be more consistent with our inventory. Haven't done so good in the first 6 months, but hopefully the last 6 months we'll be able to like even just us we see a major sales difference from us just having protein in stock in a couple flavors, V1 in a couple flavors, a couple other pre-workouts in a different couple flavors, and like creatine and some of our basic stuff. Like our sales jump like crazy because they have options compared to right now we have 2 products in stock with 1 flavor of one product and 2 flavors of the other product. So it's a tough sell there, especially when you get into like stacking stuff and like our upsell softwares and stuff on the website. It's a really different experience when we have stuff in stock. So by the next couple months, hopefully we'll get back in action.
Right. Well, I know like that's always one of the, I would say, like biggest mistakes that I usually see, and I talk about this a lot, that I don't want to make, that I see other people make too, is you have a really dedicated customer base, especially up front, right? Where and then people will immediately ask you, they want you to make everything, kind of thing. And then we're all scientists, or we all do it because it's also cool. Like we want to do it too. So sometimes it's like you have to have enough discipline in yourself to be like, okay, I would love to do this, but is it, might not be the right time. But it seems like because you got past that point where now you have the demand that you have enough people out there waiting for something you want to drop. So is that anything like, was there any like maybe product drops or maybe anything in particular where you're like, okay, I learned, okay, maybe to chill a little bit and then.
Yeah, I think there's a point. We did like 3 back-to-back limited drops, and I was like, it's not really limited anymore at this point. It's just like the product we make is just the same. And then it went to the point where like the zombie puke, I think was the final one where I was like, all right, we're probably done. We're just going to make kind of normal flavors right now. And if it's like a low in stock, we'll say it's limited. But it's like you said, it's tough because people want new. They want something, especially if it's like a social media driven, like V1 is company at this point. They want something new. And I think at least something new every 2 weeks from what I've seen is almost the perfect formula whether it's just like a restock of something or a new flavor of one thing or a big drop. It can be as simple as like a t-shirt launch, just to get people keep engaging with the website, with the social media. At like 2 weeks is almost the longest I would like to go, which once again is tough to plan out with all of this stuff.
That's a really good point. That's something that probably is like $1 million piece of advice for any brands or people that want to watch this or that see this is, I've seen it a lot, man, and just from my end, where people would ask me questions about certain brands, every day or like all day, every day. And then all of a sudden that brand doesn't drop anything new for a little while. And then no one asks me about them anymore. And then even when they eventually drop some stuff again, customers have kind of moved on. That's terrifying for if you want to be a supplement company.
It's really weird too, because this is technically V1 is like this. This is like the 6th version of V1, even though we call it V1 4.0. Right. Like, and like the weird thing, because I can continually upgrade this as many times as I want. Really, it just keeps switching out different ingredients, but it is weird that those upgrades or whatever drive the biggest drops I've ever had. It's like upgrading from V1 3.0 to V1 4.0. But then it also just completely you have to do all new labels, have to do all new. It's that whole part is annoying, but it is strange that people want something brand new, even though it's almost identical to the previous version.
Yeah. And they just they'll buy it just because it's different, and then it'll kind of sit on the shelf. It's almost like, well, I had never really considered this before until I sort of saw it up front. Was a lot of people treat it like sneakers that they don't, people buy sneakers and then don't wear them, but they want them sort of on the shelf. And I find myself too, like every now and then I'll see like just a really cool label, even if a product I'm not going to use, I'll buy it just because it's just really cool. And you see as they become, the branding has been everything, the labels have become everything. It's like, oh, these are like pieces of art. So you never really think someone's going to buy a pre-workout that they don't even necessarily intend to use, but they still buy it. It's crazy.
It is. It's like the weird thing is you have to keep doing that. You have to keep thinking of like weird out of the box stuff that like nobody's done before. If you want to like stand out, or even if it's just like a run of a couple thousand units and you just want to like, I don't just do something different. Like we did the first Ultimate we did. I'm pretty sure I was the first person to do this, that individually numbered on the label each one. For like the first one was 1 of 500, second one was 2 of 500. Just kind of do like a little bit of like a sneaker culture, like super limited thing to where if you got a tub, that was the only tub that was ever made with that label. You just gotta keep doing weird stuff to get people engaged and on, especially in the social media world. It's probably, I don't know the retail side, but it's probably a little bit different than especially direct to consumer.
So when you originally decided to drop the pre-workout, so because I found this out through some people that followed both of us, and they were kind of telling me about you, and they said they started following you on YouTube like years back, and you did like competitions, and then I know some people talked about there was like some personal the connections that you kind of put it out there about some things you kind of went through. None of this, I didn't know any of this, and I haven't seen any of this. So you started on YouTube. Was that still around the same time, like 16? I think that was
2016. That was the year or the summer between my senior year of high school and going into college. But like that was the only time I did YouTube, was that whole summer. I was very consistent, but I did that. And then I came back to YouTube when I was started my first ever drop of the supplements. And I kind of did that through going to Georgia. And then I haven't really posted since. So YouTube's my only very inconsistent social media.
Yeah, YouTube, like I get it. Well, is that so? I guess that leads to like kind of a different conversation. Is the pressure? Have you found? Because for me, it took a little bit to kind of figure this out. But there's pressure to be everywhere, all the time, right? But you really can't. Was there? You just find certain platforms just fit your style a little bit better, and then you're able to put other ones and just say, you know what, man, I'll worry about that maybe 10 years from now.
It was TikTok. Now I have no clue. Now I just I don't know. I try to go on everything as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it is TikTok changed their algorithm or what. My view, it's just weird. The views are very inconsistent. Like I'll have did an inspired video, I got like 2 million views, and then I do the exact same video with maybe a different type of protein powder, it gets maybe 10,000 views. It's weird how inconsistent TikTok is now. But I try to be. I probably shouldn't be this active, but I try to literally be on my phone almost all day long, whether it's on Instagram, posting something, being on live on TikTok, posting something on TikTok, or even just editing. I don't like not doing it because I can clearly see a difference when I'm on in our sales, when I'm off in our sales. So
you had mentioned, I think I caught on one of your videos that, because like I was saying, dude, like I just usually post my own things and then I try to catch up with like a few people, but literally like everything I see is your content. You had mentioned on one of your videos, I think that you had the YouTube kind of thing going on, but then you started working at NutriCap, and you said you were like waking up at like 3 a.m. doing content before you were working, kind of thing. And those are like the stories that I always sort of hear, because again, people will see what you're doing now and they're like, wow, he just blew up out of nowhere. And you're like, well, actually, I was doing the things that no one else, would be willing to do.
That probably those three. I think it's three. I did it for about 3 months consistently. Those 3 months changed my life. That took my brand, my social media, everything, and just upgraded it like crazy. But it literally was. I was staying at my friend's parents' house, living in this like, I want to say like an 8x10 room. It was just a bed and a desk, and like that was it. That was all that was in there. Like all my clothes were on the floor. But yeah, I literally wake up at 3 o'clock, do some type of social media. I would literally sit like this at my desk and have my phone propped up right there and film like top 3 pre-workouts on the market right now, like some stupid video, go have breakfast, go film another video, and then go to the gym at 5, go work on NutriCap from 9 to 5. At my lunch break, would do all the comments and everything. And at this time, it was those stupid day in the life videos were getting like millions of views. So I had like tens of thousands of comments, and I pride myself on trying to respond to every single person, whether it's a DM comment or something, because if they engage with me or like anything, I can just say like their stuff or say, yo, appreciate it, man. But yeah, then I'd get off NutriCap. It was an hour and a half from their parents' house to NutriCap. I'd drive an hour and a half home, get my meals prepped for the next day, do all the comments again, go on live, and then try to get in bed by like 10 p.m. It was the most ridiculous schedule I've ever had in my entire life. I don't think I could have done it for more than 3 months, but those 3 months, I think I went from like 30,000 followers on TikTok to like 250,000. And yeah, that was at that point, all my stuff was going viral. Like I said, I did 1,500 units in like 30 minutes. I think still to this day is the most or quickest I've ever sold 1,500 units. So
that's crazy.
It was ridiculous.
I'm going to go back later on and I'm going to pull that whole section right there, that like 1 minute section, and I'll be like, so you want to go viral, by accident. I think that's like what really kind of started, and granted it does happen here and there, but I started to like dig in a little bit with people that I see them, they blow up, right? You go viral, and I think that's like everyone. It's weird how like that reward for everyone seems to be driving most people's behavior and things these days. But you didn't just wake up one day and just go viral. You were doing it. And there's always like, when I see that, which is so cool, is when you dig down into it and you hear that story, those are the things that people should be listening to, not the that I always talk about how we see people in a snapshot on social media, and you just, because some of those things, like when I tell how I got started, sometimes I'm like, there's no way I would record that and put it on social media. Nobody wants to see that. Me sitting there, like, in 3 a.m, just typing out ingredients and reading research papers and stuff like that. I was like, because you don't want to put that on social media anyway, because it sucks. So then you have that like aspect of it, and then you go for 3 months doing that, like killing yourself. And then that's what led into this big drop, this massive spike in TikTok following, and then that led into the release of the product?
Yeah, basically, like I think, like you're saying, I think not too many people. Well, first of all, yeah, not too many people go viral, but I think the people that go viral don't really take the opportunities that are in front of them as well. As far as like yeah, like they can monetize it as well, but just creating an actual community of people, which I did, and like I responded to every single person I could. I introduced my products. I actually explained the products correctly and kind of tried to educate people as much as possible, rather than just saying let's give you crazy pumps and give you stimmed out like crazy. But yeah, I just started explaining my stuff, going behind the scenes at NutriCap was kind of fun, and I was able to like show my products coming off the line. Yeah, it led to insane growth, which I like to tell this story all the time too, which is kind of funny. So I was grinding my ass off and like waking up at 3 and blah, blah, blah. And then I finally was able to get an apartment. I only had this apartment for 2 months, but I was finally able to get an apartment. It was like a 1-bedroom, $1,250 per month, I think. But it was closer. It was closer. I didn't have to drive the freaking hour and a half there.
Mm-hmm.
But I had like zero money because I was throwing it all into supplements because that's the only way I could grow, because I was kept selling out of everything. And I had quit NutriCap. I think it was April of 2020 or 2021. And I had like $400 in my bank account. Like that was it. And rent was due in like the next week or something. And so like I'd call my mom before the drop. I was like, if this doesn't go good, I might need to borrow a little bit extra. Mm-hmm. But then that drop came, and it was like the next day I had like 60 grand in my bank account or something. Mm-hmm. It was stupid. So yeah, that was ridiculous. That was another awesome feeling. But,
yeah, because so that's another one of those, because it kind of ties into like kind of similar, like how I got going. I think there's like people that they say, well, they wait for the perfect time to, quit your job or whatever and do this really crazy thing. They go, oh, well, if I can, make up a certain amount of bills. So it sounds like that's not what you did. You were like, I'm going to quit and I'm just going to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, things were like doing really good. And like, yeah, I just kept progressing. My sales and order numbers went from 300 to like 1,000 to like, then it was like 1,500. And like I called my dad, and I really respect my dad. He worked his ass off to get from like the bottom of his company to an executive position. That's unbelievable. So I had called him and I was like, just asking him advice. Like, I really think I should quit this job. Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
He first off didn't like when I sold my truck. And he didn't like some of the decisions I made because he's not a risk guy. But then he was like, logically speaking, Conlon, is probably the right move. And I think if you're going to do something, do it right now because you're freaking 21 years old. So, that kind of led to me officially quitting NutriCap.
That's awesome because I still to this day, my dad, he still has no idea. Like, he's like, how do you take care of yourself? How do you support yourself? Like, there's things, and I was just, because what's really cool about this is like this past weekend, for example, when everybody came into town for the party here, and you're sitting down with other people that have gone through it, you can actually talk about it and you don't sound completely insane, because there's a lot of people, like I still to this day, I don't tell my parents certain details of what I did because I was like, you don't want to hear it anyway. Like, you'll freak out. You'll flip your shit if you heard the decisions I made. And you don't tell people you're about to do certain things because they'll try to talk you out of it. And it's like, if you sort of believe in it, you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to kind of figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly.
So this question that I want to go back to, would love to hear how you came up with the name.
Okay. I have a lot of weird stuff that happened with V1. So it was originally KJ Performance Nutrition. And like I was the logo. So,
oh, wow.
It was, I thought it was a cool logo, but it didn't really roll off the tongue the best. So then we changed it to Victus Performance with like the V1 CTUS. But I think it's a geriatrics nutritional brand or something like that my lawyer at the time was like, yeah, you probably shouldn't keep that name. So we only did one run with that name. So those labels are super rare. Then we changed it to V1 Nutra. So But V1 Nutra came from the Victus. Victus means in, I think, Latin, way of life. So it's basically the V1 way of life.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things. Another one of those things they don't tell you when you're trying to do all this million different details and things that you didn't know was happening. Was, oh yeah, by the way, don't pick the wrong name.
Yeah.
And so you go Victus, and then you find out, okay, we got to switch that. So did you end up wasting a ton of money on labels and all that other stuff, or did it not really affect you too much?
It didn't really affect me too much. We still run the whole thing because it was already like finished by the time we kind of figured out that it was.
Okay. So nothing happened?
Yeah, no, we sold that. I think that was the run that sold out super fast anyway. So we sold it out and just switched all the labels from there. So.
Yeah. So it's not like I was directly talking about her when I said, some people wait for because the inside joke, I don't want to say inside joke, but one of the things is because, Kristen will talk about certain things and her job, and I'll be like, quit. Like, I'll just tell her to quit.
Literally do the same thing.
Right. So you have your girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
Girlfriend, she helps you, which is you. And I've never met her or talked to her, but I already know, like, she has to get a lot of credit to want to be involved in something so insane as what you're doing.
Yeah, she's pretty unbelievable to kind of, I guess, put up with my crap. And when I'm super excited about like some stupid thing, she like acts excited too. And yeah, it's incredible to have somebody that at least pushes you and kind of helps out in every possible way they can, even though they kind of don't understand everything.
Well, because you still do like your own fulfillment and things like that, right?
Yeah. She helps out a ton there too, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, doing your own fulfillment still that's a lot of work, man.
It's getting up there. I'm definitely probably by the end of the year going to have some type of either 3PL or I got a couple things in the works that might happen, but yeah, I can't be packing now that we're getting up to like a decent amount of orders every single day. So
yeah, because I didn't realize that until like I saw one of your videos from like one of your last drops, because you have your own like separate shipping and sort of fulfillment like center where you also do your content, right? Where you do your content is where you ship from.
Yeah, so it's just like I think it's about 3,000 square feet, just like a kind of main entrance where I guess all of my supplements and my content's made in my office, and then the big warehouse.
So from an 8x10 to 3,000 square foot, and then you see places like Rise, moving into their kind of like major things. So if you're when she said like this whole thing, like I was going to ask, how did you make the leap from getting paid to starting a business without going mental? I'm curious, although we've already kind of talked about it and answered it. I would be curious to hear how you would answer that.
Oh, I don't know. I honestly, I just watched
exactly. You don't know.
I just listened to like David Goggins and like all these people that are just like, just stop being weak. Just go for it. Like what the worst thing that's going to happen is you end up exactly where you are right now. So
I'm just going to let what you just said sort of sink in a little bit. What's the worst that can happen? You end up right where you're at right now. Kind of thing. So then you now, as you've blown up, your brand and gotten to a certain level, how did I don't know, like how much you can talk about this or if you can just talk about everything, but how did the Inspired thing kind of come about?
So Landon just reached out to me. Like I do a decent amount of stuff now I get paid for a decent amount of reviews that I do now, even though I still tell them that everything's unbiased. That took me, once again, like 2 years of doing straight buying all of my stuff, doing reviews myself, and just creating these relationships with all these brands, which I think everybody should do first before they start asking for some type of something. Just do free content, provide value to these brands, and most likely they'll reach out, which is exactly what Landon did with Inspired. He sent me out some more stuff and kind of just got the relationship talking. They had their new stuff that was going on with I guess their whole operations side, and everything just kind of fit very well to where I was at the point where, okay, I'm kind of nailing everything online. I kind of need somebody to come in and help with all of these retail people that are emailing me every single week. I definitely can take advantage of it. I just can't put it on my plate right now with everything I'm doing. So he comes in, he's going to help me with the retail side. We got something really cool planned, hopefully within the next couple months. And then, I kind of help them with a little bit more of their content style stuff, get more of their, I guess, inspired views from a social media aspect, what people want my age and everything like that. So,
yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense because it's the networking aspects of this. It's what I don't know, man. Just when I sort of like woke up and was like, oh, I want to make this passion, project of mine or whatever. It's like you kind of go through and you don't sometimes realize it sometimes, but I go, okay, first steps, what do I got to do? And I was like, oh, I'm just going to call so-and-so. And then I'm going to text so-and-so and I'm going to text so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And then next thing you know, it's like 3 hours later, we're rocking and rolling. And it's like, those are the things that, exactly like what you said. I've spent, 5-6 years building relationships with people to the point where, you kind of don't think about it. But then when the moment kind of happens, you're like, oh, okay. Like, okay, now that all makes sense. So now he can sort of like collaborate with you. It's like, hey, I'll share my skill set with you. You share your skill set with me. We can make it a collaborative sort of effort and make both of our lives easier.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I 100% believe in creating relationships, and honestly don't like ever really burning bridges with people as well, because you never know when something's going to come down the line. Like NutraCap did do something a little bit screwy. They tried to buy my brand, which was it's a very stupid deal. I don't even really want to say what they offered me because I contemplated doing it. But
they do that. Well, they like to let you sort of build it up or whatever, and then buy it and then bring it under their umbrella. It makes everything easier for you. Or what I've seen them do is they wait until a brand starts to fall off and they realize, like, because that's kind of the tough part is, I talk about this, I don't know, like I'm tired of saying the words cash flow, but you get what people don't really understand is it's a really weird game if you wait until you sell out, especially during the COVID years, you're going to be out of stock for a while. Like, it's okay sometimes, like if you're out of stock for a month or whatever, people are using your products, but you get 2-3 months or whatever. And next thing you know, like you're saying, you've discovered it's 2 weeks and I got to drop something new for people. If you got to wait 20 weeks, if you get all your money back and then you go, okay, now I have enough money to run another product. It's like, you can't wait. You can't wait until you're totally sold out to reorder products. And then if you have 10 products going on, you're like, I'm selling all this shit. Where's all my money? And that's like always like kind of like a dose of reality for a lot of people that I see.
Oh, it's ridiculous. The more you get into, the more you grow too, the more it's like, oh my God, how do these people handle it? Like, I can't even imagine like Rise moving that massive warehouse, having the Rise fuel and all of the powders. It's like, oh my God, the problems I think I have with all the stuff I'm trying to keep it, I guess, handle. You just got to respect some of those people in that position that are doing those things like that.
Well, I think, did you, and I guess if you worked at Vitamin Shop and you were at NutraCap, you probably knew one thing that just blew my mind when I first got into the space was how small the teams at supplement companies are. Like like you said, you're doing, a lot, and you're still doing your own, you and your girlfriend are doing your fulfillment.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, there's people would never, like, if I were to tell, my mom that or whatever, she'd be like, there's no way, that's not possible. So then you see like places, you see places like Rise or whatever, and they're just like, you end up with massive teams.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things I've done wrong, and I probably still have done a lot of things wrong if I wanted V1 to like really totally take off. I don't know. I'm a guy that likes control. I don't like giving up control. I like, if something goes wrong, completely my fault, I take total accountability for it. All right, let's try and figure out how to do it next. When somebody else is, if you, I don't know, take a load off and give it to somebody else, that there's nobody that's going to care much about this business as I do. So that's the toughest part I've had to deal with. But delegation is a problem I have so far.
Yeah, that's one of the things that that I wanted. I'm glad you said that because it's one of the things I want to talk about on here, was ask you about where there's this, that if you have to scale, right, you can't take care of everything anymore. But how you got here in the first place, scaling is such an obsessive thing like these days, where you feel like if you're not growing, every day, like people are, if you're not growing, you're dying, kind of thing. And it's like, well, what if I want a fucking day off? Like it's like, what do you mean I can't take a day off? I can't. And you feel like sort of everything. So that delegation aspect is what and it doesn't matter what stage you're at, like delegation, knowing where you built it from, going from recording those videos, and now you've got it to where you're at now. It's got to be really hard to let any kind of control go.
Yeah. It is tough, especially, I mean, we're doing unbelievable. Like I honestly still, it's hard to comprehend how good we've done the past 2.5 years. We haven't even reached our third year yet. But it is getting to the point where I'm going a little bit insane, trying to handle every possible thing I can myself. And like, I'm making little stupid mistakes about like not ordering the correct size boxes or not ordering them on time. So it's tough, but it's needed. And hopefully by the end of this year, we'll probably add at least one more person to the team, or I got something else I'm working on that might be something cool.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then that's part of the hope, right? Is when you bring someone in like Inspired or working with Landon or whatever,
Exactly.
That's kind of part of it, where maybe you're not specifically expanding your team, but you're bringing in some sort of information and knowledge in almost like a contract kind of way, like, hey, help me out with this kind of deal. That's sort of the thought process there.
Yeah, exactly. With the Inspired stuff, it's something to where they just can handle a decent amount of it, where I don't have to do a majority of the selling. It's like I take all of my resources, kind of my knowledge, take the V1 name, and they kind of help me with all of their resources they have. They have the relationship with all of the retailers. They have the relationship with their sales team and everything like that. And I can take advantage of that. They can take advantage of my social status type thing.
Right. So it's beneficial for everyone. So that I got a question today about that was talking about retail, and like I answered it and people hear me give my answers enough. They don't need to hear it anymore. But your, how is that like, because you've done some retail, right? So how has that been going from direct to consumer, handling your own website, to then going to retail? Maybe I'm wrong about this. Did it seem like you did a little bit of it, maybe pulled some of it back, and then now you're going to be doing it again? Like, what was that experience? Because it is a much different game than running your own website.
It's very different. I mean, I did as much as I possibly could. I never really reached out to people, but we get a decent amount of influx of emails, probably like 10 a month or something, of random retailers just wanting to carry our stuff. It was tough, and especially with our products that are relatively loaded. And I mean, we're not doing unbelievably big runs, so we don't have crazy low costs where we wouldn't really be even making anything. We'd almost just be going net even from my accountant. He said we're almost just losing money. If you put, I guess, all the rest of the costs in there. But with the new retail stuff that we're doing, it's kind of its own. We're starting with a one product, which would be our new V1X, our new kind of like high stimulus, a little bit different formula. Costs are a decent amount lower, but still kind of fully loaded. We got from a different manufacturer than I normally use. So it's I don't know. It's going to be a different type of process. It'll be a little bit easier on the fact that we'll have a little bit more margin to spare. And it'll be bigger runs compared to my runs of the smaller loaded products. So,
yeah, no, that's cool, because I think there's like, I do see customers sometimes don't understand why, say a Rise has, 15 different pre-workouts and things like that, or maybe like there's, 20 different C4 versions. And I think what customers don't understand is sometimes that's literally to fill a demand from a retailer, or give to a specific niche. It's not like you're trying to water down a formula or a product or anything like that. It's like, no, this is going to be for you guys. And you explained it perfectly. Like, listen, if I go retail with these products, there's no incentive for me to do it with like this stuff, you can build that audience. You've already built that audience through your direct to consumer. So it's like, now let's make something different for people that want the experience of the brand, but can't necessarily get access to it.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think this process will go really good with the Inspired team. The Inspired team's great, and they have like a great community around them as well. Their products are freaking awesome. They got the good relationship with the retailers already, so it should be fairly smooth. And the product we have coming is actually it's very cool and still pretty damn loaded from a product standpoint. So.
Right, because I think like that's one of the things too that I notice it, especially when it comes to, because I was talking about today, there is a decent margin on a product when you send the formula out to the manufacturer and you get a quote for those ingredients. But there's so many like hidden layers of cost, and next thing you know, you're like, what the hell happened to all my margin? And then you're like, oh, I want to go retail, and then the retailer wants a certain price, and you're like, I don't have it left. So it's like you went like that, There's John. What's up, John? So yeah, was there anything that like when you were going through the initial process that really just like floored you?
About like the whole supplement process?
Yeah, like was it because there were so many things, man. Like the first time, like I said, I got exposed to this space and started seeing things. I don't even know where I would start to answer a question like that. Like there were so many things I just had no idea, like that's how it kind of worked. And did you have any of those moments where you were just like speechless, like what in the hell just happened, kind of thing?
I think the first time so I flew down to NutriCap to interview for the internship. So I didn't even like have the internship yet. And I think the first time I got a tour around the whole facility, was like, holy shit, this is like a lot of stuff that just goes into making like a little bit of pre-workout. Like even the sample lab was like huge. And I was like, geez, these guys are whipping through so much stuff. And like the whole process to me was just insane, how big the mixers were and everybody working there. It was crazy. I'm still baffled by the whole manufacturing process of supplements.
Yeah, and then so have you seeing because NutriCap, obviously they're huge. They do tons and tons of products, lots of big brands. Have you seen the opposite, where maybe have you seen manufacturers where you're like, wow, this is a lot smaller than I would have expected?
I haven't. I have seen smaller ones, but I haven't seen crazy small ones, unless I've seen a couple of pictures of some that have sent me trying to get me to get so much stuff.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it is. It is also crazy. Yeah, how big of a disparity there is between, like, you can find a manufacturer that, I mean, some people do them in cement mixers. I've heard stories of, because there's some ways you can get around by doing it like that. And then there's some like Simpson Labs, which is like huge. Like they have unbelievably big warehouses and spaces, which is it's just crazy.
Is there anybody like you when you look at like other brands? Because I think like a lot of times we're so focused on our own thing, but is there like other brands or people that you sort of follow along with, and not that you're following them to like copy off them, but you vibe with it? You're like, okay, I take inspiration from them. I kind of like the vibe, the way they do.
I mean, I kind of take it from like, I like looking at a lot of different brands. Like I guess the main ones would be like, I love Jeff Long's stuff. I've used his Pump and Focus for like a really long time, and he was probably the first guy I looked at and was like, wow, it's a pretty damn loaded formula. But then like the Rise stuff, I love to look at too, because it's like they don't have crazy ridiculously loaded products, but they still sell the shit out of them. And then now getting to Walmart, and like I think I respect a lot of these different guys, because they all do and sell everything so differently. Probably like Inspired, Rise, Like a Pro. There's probably a lot more that I watch every single day. I love the Cloud Power designs and all their stuff, even though
their designs.
J-Bash is awesome.
Which one?
The guy who designs, I think he's J-Brash is his Instagram handle. But the guy who's just and like all the 3D stuff, and like, I don't know, the whole, like whether it's even just like a label or the way they do a social media post or anything, there's so many cool things in this industry that it always blows my mind how creative people can be.
Yeah, those labels are nuts. I saw there was something really cool that I saw. I posted the one day where Muscle Tech was using like some virtual reality type stuff, and they were kind of showing. I've never even seen anything like that where they started to show like workouts like in a virtual reality kind of thing, just based off the barcode or the QR code on one of their supplement products. I was like,
That's
holy
insane.
shit. Yeah. I brought it up to them and they were like, you don't even want to know what that costs us. And I was like, that's what I think is cool. So I guess like Muscle Tech was the first company that I ever bought their supplements. And when I say I bought, like I'll tell people the first supplement I bought was Celtec. And people are like, oh yeah. And I'm like, no, not that one. The older one, like 1999, probably Celtec. And it was like $80 and it was essentially creatine and dextrose, but they had like lab coats and things like that. And I remember like, I don't know, I had my first apartment back then. I made probably $7 an hour and I was, buying Nitrotech and Celtec. You said Dino from RSP?
RSP, and then I think it's Myoplex. Did they used to come in the bags? It was purple.
Yeah. Is that EAS?
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. My dad used to have those all the time, and he'd let us have one like every now and then. That was probably my first ever entry in any type of supplement.
Yeah, EAS was a very dad brand. I think because my dad used EAS, and EAS was like huge marketing company back then. Like they crushed it. They had like the athletes and things like that. So you're like, oh, okay.
It didn't taste good. We had to add like a banana and like so much stuff into it to actually taste good. But
it's funny because I haven't seen anything RSP nutrition in a long time, but I remember having the same thought process you talked about earlier where they were selling it for so cheap, like on bodybuilding.com, because that's what I did. I don't know, like I've told the story like a lot of times when I started to realize that I wanted to learn about supplements and do whatever the hell I was thinking with the app. It was crazy. I just sat down on bodybuilding.com and I started going over every label and every category that they had. And RSP nutrition was just killing it back then. And I remember going through like the first tub of pre-workout and I was like, okay, wow, this is going to be a lot more work than I thought. So I go through and I'm doing all the research on these ingredients and I'm typing it out on this database and I'm going through, and a few hours later, I'm like, okay. And then so I click on the next product and all the ingredients are different. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, this is the stupidest thing. Like, no wonder no one's done this before because this is asinine. I was like, but I have no choice now. Can't turn back.
Yeah.
But we didn't have David Goggins back then. So stop me.
Yeah, I don't know. That's stuff gets me through the days. I don't know why. Just like every morning I wake up, put on like a freaking David Goggins or Jordan Peterson or something. Just, I don't know. It's a weird thing that I do, I guess.
No, that's cool because I think like Jacob, he from TNS, he always talks about how, because I think like one of the things that I see, and especially when I see like, and it's not an age thing, it's everybody that I see, but it's especially would be tough if you're younger, is figuring out what you need to take from an Andy Frisella or David Goggins or whatever, and then taking that and then going and doing something with it, and not just getting wrapped up in sort of watching it all the time.
Exactly. I think it's like motivation something. There's a term for it from people that just like watch it, just get feeling good and feel motivated, and then they just don't do anything.
And then so one of the things you told me, because there is a little bit of a life outside of supplements. You foster animals too?
Yeah. So we have one right now, Nyla. She's 6 months old. I think she's a lab retriever, but she doesn't look like a lab retriever. But yeah, it's a fun part of my day because my girlfriend works too. But she works from a 9 to a 5. She works 9 to 5. So I basically just have to take care of all the dots all day long, taking the warehouse and everything. But yeah, it's fun. I enjoy doing it. It's it kind of keeps us busy, that's for sure.
So where did the fostering the animals thing come from?
Kim, my girlfriend, she's always wanted to do it, and then as soon as we got in Texas, we just started to do it. So
So you bring her along for the crazy ride of the supplement thing, and then she brings
Yep.
you along for the crazy ride
It's a
of
good,
fostering animals.
yeah, it's a good switch up. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, because we would like to do the same kind of thing, or once you kind of go down that path, I think you're like, okay, I'm an animal person now.
Yeah.
So did you have animals before you started doing this?
Not really. So I was never a huge. Yeah, I guess I was never a huge animal guy. My family had a dog that passed away when I was like 7, so I didn't really experience that much. So it was like a whole learning curve and dealing with everything that comes out of a dog. I didn't realize I was gonna have to deal with. We've had, yeah, I won't get into it because it's a supplement podcast. But we've had so many problems with fosters. But
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah,
It's not
well,
necessarily a supplement podcast.
uh, I don't know. I just could tell you so many stories about how my Mustang has gotten shit on and like there's perforated seats and throw up is inside of all of my seats. And like we fostered a dog with 3 legs one time that did not like car rides. And like the foster place, of course, is 45 minutes away. So I've had to drive her a couple of times. And when she gets nervous, she shits. And of course, I'm the person taking her to the foster. And I don't know. And then dealing with puppies. And so we've done both. We've done adult dogs and puppies. And of course, when you get puppies, it's like 2 or 3 at a time. So yeah, fun stuff. But hey, it's helps me dial in my stress. That's for sure.
Well, it keeps you humble too, because I tell people this a lot, where we don't really have it as much anymore because everything we have for the cats is automated. But I remember it was like the one day, I can't remember what we were doing, but we were working on like a really, really just amazing project, and we got off a Zoom call, and I remember getting off the Zoom call, and I was like, this is one of those times where I'm going to look back, in a couple of years, and I was like, this is a pivotal type moment. And then 15 seconds later, I was in there like scooping shit out of a litter box, and the cat's just like sitting there looking at me like, like, yeah, I hope you had a good day. I hope you had a good day, but this will keep you humble, kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had a couple breakdowns where I'm just like screaming at the top of my lungs because it's kind of the opposite. Where like one day it's like the worst possible day. Like I'm just like stressed out of my mind. Like a couple of things went wrong with the manufacturer. Things aren't turned out, and it's like, and then the dog shits in my car. Or like I come home to like just my shoes ripped up, and it's like, all right, I'm done. I'm done with the day. That's it for me. It's like.
So it's like preparing you for kids and things down the road.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah. But my anger problems have gotten a little bit better as we get more fosters. So.
Yeah, we don't have the energy for it. Like I think like if you waste a lot of time like being angry, at some point you're just too exhausted. You're like, okay, whatever, man. Like it's just, I think like that's the thing about like with entrepreneurship, and they kind of tell you this is I was made this comment the other day after we sort of got together with everyone about how I feel like people in this space, you sometimes on social media, and not everyone, but they come across, there's some people that are a little insecure and maybe just kind of come across as arrogant. But for the most part, I think like overwhelmingly, especially in this space, like people are super humble.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's because you just get your ass kicked so many times that you just like the arrogance just gets beat out of you, kind of thing. Yeah. And you're just like, okay, I'm kind of good.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that.
Do your because we always talk about like your like a circle of friends, usually, especially like when you're growing up and things like that. Because I saw like recently, didn't you take a trip like back to where you're from and like hang out with like some friends?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have I guess I wouldn't say I really have any friends.
That's hey, man.
I love my family. I like hanging out with my family. I mean, I love hanging out with my girlfriend. So that's about it. I'm not a huge extroverted guy, I guess, or I don't really like those terms anyways, but it's like hanging out with my family. It's kind of about it. I'm not a huge friend guy, I guess. I had a lot of good relationships, whether it's business or just mutual friends or just, I don't know. But
well, I think like, is it because when I saw you were kind of like out and about with the family, is there still that, that pull to be like, well, I still need to be doing something, for the business. So you can't really you can't really disconnect. Like people always are like, you hear them say, oh, the balance and oh, you need to disconnect. And I'm like, yeah, but when you love something as much as you do too, you don't want to disconnect anyway.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think that's the hardest thing the main thing that I don't like about doing this, the entrepreneurial stuff, is like you always have to be on, especially if you're on social media and everything. There's always somebody commenting back. There's always a video you have to post every single day. Like kind of no matter what, there's always something you should be doing rather than you can take time off. Like when I was there, I like batch did a bunch of content, and like every morning I was waking up early to do my cardio and edit every single video so I could get it out before I was able to spend time with my family. So I think there's ways you can get around it and be able to have that little bit of time off to spend with your friends and family. But yeah, you kind of always got to be doing something.
So I think like
you're in a position like me.
Oh yeah. No, it's totally, I don't know, man. It's hard to explain to anybody, because I'll get that question too, where, I'll talk to my mom every so often and she's always worried, because she's like, are you okay? Like, are you sleeping? And I'm like, I'm not going to be honest with you because then you'll worry more. But I was like, but you're not. And I was telling Kristen this, the other day, like sometimes you sort of lose sight over because if you get focused on that part of it, I was like, wait a minute, I'm doing something. Because you're basically, this, you're a unicorn in this world where there's so many people trying to do what you've accomplished. And you're one of the few people that have actually done it. If you get focused on what have you not done, you can kind of lose sight of, holy shit, man, I've done something that everybody else wants to do. You see me try.
And I honestly think I'm lucky. I think it was a very good string of luck about how things kind of played out. To where, like, if it wasn't Corona, there's no way that many people would be on TikTok at the time. If I didn't pick up the phone and was like, okay, let's be the first supplement person on TikTok, nothing would have happened. And then, like, if I wouldn't have reached out to NutriCap and been out there, I wouldn't have learned about that type of stuff. I think there's a lot of like opportunities, I guess, that I took, but if certain things in the world didn't play out like they did, I honestly don't think I would be in this position. So I think it was a amount of
like I was saying, like I said, everybody's humble because you're like, you don't want to give yourself any credit. Do you ever had like those things where you have reflected on some big moments, but do you have that where you're almost concerned to be happy about success because like you kind of feel like it could all be gone tomorrow, kind of thing?
That's probably another thing I struggle with too, is like having a moment of contentment. Like I back before I even started all this stuff, I was major into bodybuilding. I was never honestly really good at that. I was always just lean, not really that big, but I like dedicated everything I possibly could to where, like, if I wasn't feeling tired or something was wrong, like if I was feeling normal, I wasn't pushing myself hard enough to where, like, now when I feel normal, it's like, okay, what else can I do? I shouldn't be sitting on the couch right now just enjoying myself. Like, is there something I can do right now? So it's that I still struggle with that of, I don't know, feeling good rather than like feeling stressed out. If I don't feel stressed or do anything, it's like, all right, I'm not working hard enough. I got to kick myself in the ass. But yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough doing that.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything, because I kind of given up, like, we kind of joke about 5-year plans and 10-year plans, because I don't know. It's nice to have, because I know you're big on like vision boards and things like that, which is good. Write it down. You can visualize and things like that. But then usually like the next day you have to erase shit.
Oh, yeah.
And then write like new stuff. But is there things, say like in the near future, that you kind of have going on that you can talk about? I know a lot of stuff in this space is very, hush hush because of the, you're always, if you do something cool, you don't really want to talk about it because everyone's looking for something cool to do.
I don't know. We'll see. Like, we have a lot of cool stuff coming up that is like all in the works. So it's always hard to talk about it. It's like always, like you said, like I love putting stuff on the board and like doing all like a whole cash flow chart for the whole end of the year and like figuring out what drops we're going to do every single month. But then, like you said, like I did a whole thing last month and played out the rest of the year, and it's already gone. It's already not even working. So like I had to just erase that whole year's worth of stuff. But
it's all right.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what to say because if I planned out what I thought we were going to do at the beginning of the year to now, it'd be completely different. So I guess have to wait and see. We do have a lot of stuff in the works that I think will come out probably September to November. That'll be very cool to see. That's for sure.
Nice. So one of the things that people ask me like in DMs and have mentioned about like asking you is, and I think this is like a common question that people always find interesting, is so 16-year-old you that was on YouTube and started doing these things, like what do you think he would think about KJ now, 10 years later?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I think he'd be proud of him. I think he'd still think he has some more potential to keep going. But yeah, I've just always been a guy. Like I keep always having these like mental, like I flip a switch to where like, okay, I can do more. I'm lacking in what my life I think I could be, my potential of what I think I'm capable of doing. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Probably the majority of the time, my IQ is probably not the highest, but I can definitely work harder than a lot of people out there. And I think that's probably what sets me apart. But yeah, at 16 years old, when I was starting the YouTube, I was transitioning from out of basketball because I was diehard basketball and wanted to do everything I could. Yeah, and I just want to push myself into something else. It was bodybuilding, fitness. Like if I do something, I want to do it to the best I possibly can. So I think he'd be proud. Hopefully,
nice. That's good. No, it's good to think about that too. Because one of the things, like I think for me, and I think one of the things you touched on, just kind of like wrapping this up, is like one of the things that you touched on that really like stood out to me is you made a quick comment about how when you first started at NutriCap, they immediately were like, we want to bring you on full time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've always noticed about you is, and I made a comment on my stories one day about this, I was like, your reliability and I know like every day that KJ is going to show up. I know. And I made the comment, I said, if him and I scheduled a meeting for 5 years from now on this date at this time, I already know you would be there. I wouldn't even have to follow up. And I think like that's one of the things that when I initially started to see you and I saw your content, I was like, that dude has everything that it takes to make it not just maybe in the supplement space, but just kind of in life in general. Because I think like you talked about the comments, like getting back to everyone, like you take it personally, reaching out to people, you take it like that's you're just very you take a lot of pride in your work and your work ethic. And I think like what you have is been pretty incredible to watch, man. I've been super proud watching you, just as a fan of the brand. And I just kind of, it sounds cliche, but I can't wait to see sort of what's coming because like I said, you have all the makings in the world. And, if you ever need anything, just text me and like, we would do anything for you, man. Just want to see you succeed and you and all the stuff you have going on at home. But yeah, you got it, man.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think I gotta probably give my parents props for that. Cause it's, they just instilled me, and especially today, I even see it more now. It's like, it's those little things that nobody does anymore that like makes all the difference. I was that dude in college where I showed up to class like 25 minutes early. Just I always thought I was going to miss class, so I'd show up and like sometimes the lights were off and I'd just walk in the classroom. But it is doing those little things, being polite nowadays and like being early and doing all these things that are just super easy to do, but nobody does them anymore. That honestly just sets you apart in the 1% of people that are my age. So yeah, I got to thank my parents for that. But seriously, I appreciate everything that you've done too. Just talking to you and your stuff that's coming out. I definitely got to snag something. If you need a video.
Oh, right. Like, I'm going to be like, dude, how do you make so much content so fast like, all the time? Like, I can't do this. All right, man. No, I know you got lots of stuff to do. I appreciate you taking the time, man. Seriously, I'm a massive fan of what you have going on.
Appreciate it.
I know everyone else is. I get questions and comments about you all the time. So we look forward to seeing all the crazy stuff that you're going to have coming out. I know as soon as I open my phone, I'll probably see one of your videos. So just keep it up, man. Like I said, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, we'll catch up.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.